Hello, I'm Josie Sherreston and I'm the Environmental Coordinator here at Tunstead Cement Works, and I work for Tarmac Cement and Lime. In my presentation today, I'm going to be answering your questions about the environmentally friendly way of producing cement, and we'll jump into the first question. So the first question I've been asked is, how is cement made? Well, it's a bit like making a cake. You have all of your raw ingredients. So for us it's limestone, and to get that raw ingredient out of the ground we have to blast. So we put explosives into the ground, that is charged and it goes poof, like that, and we get all these like big chunks of stone. It then goes through a first mixing process. So this is where we break the stone down into manageable chunks. It then goes through a raw milling process. So this is where we have these massive ball bearings on plates and they roll around like this, and it breaks that stone down into a powder. And at that point we add some other ingredients like shale, and that all gets pulverized, and this is then called raw meal. That then gets fed into the kiln process. So the kiln, if you can imagine, is the cooking process, is the oven. So we have the dust that has to go through the cyclone stage first of all. So this is where hot gas goes up, cold dust comes down, and as it passes in between it warms up. At the back end of the kiln where the dust first hits the oven, we have alternative fuels that are burnt in this zone, so that makes the whole process far more efficient. And from a CO2 point of view, we use a fuel called SRF, and for those of you who don't know what that means, it's essentially bits of plastic. You can see in this jar here there's bits of carpet fluff and stuff in there as well. It all gets chopped up and mixed, and then we can blow that into our kiln and burn it as a really good fuel, and that replaces quite a lot of fossil fuel, which is why it's better for CO2. So when that dust hits the kiln, it gets superheated. It gets to about maybe 1400 degrees to 2000 degrees, so really hot. It turns this stone dust into essentially lava, and as that lava goes down the kiln and the kiln is slowly spinning, it turns that material into marbles, and that's what we call clinker, and that's the product we want. So really interesting at this point. So we do burn alternative fuels. Historically they tend to be things that go into landfill, and we do look at biomass as well, so things like wood chip for example. We have to go through a lot of environmental studies to make sure that it's safe for us to burn them. And the reason for us burning them and it's better for the environment is because actually when you burn a material, it usually leaves you an ash deposit. That ash actually enhances the cement properties and it all gets combined in. So there is literally no waste from our process. So when we have our clinker, we've got to cool it down. So we put it on like a wire rack and you cool it down a bit like a cake. And then it goes into the cement milling process. So if you can imagine a big Smartie tube and it's spinning around really fast with metal ball bearings in, that pulverizes the clinker in from its like little marble form back down to powder. And we mix that with gypsum and different types of limestone to produce different types of cement. And we send that then out by bag, which is what you see in your DIY merchants, and also by bulk, which can go out by road, but we prefer to send as much as our bulk out by rail, again because we can get more cement in the process and out by rail, and saves us on CO2 again. So my next question I've been asked is it dangerous to make cement, and what do you have to do to protect yourself? Well, if there were no controls whatsoever, we're dealing with quarry blasts, we're dealing with very heavy equipment, hot processes, so yes, it can be very dangerous what we do. However, we have one of the best safety management systems, in all of the industries. We are heavily regulated. We have a really good work ethic here, and we always want to take care of ourselves. We pride ourselves on the safety training that we do, and we try and engineer out all of the problems. So we have guarding, we have the best equipment available to us, we have personal protective equipment such as my hard hat, we have overalls, air-fed masks, all that sort of thing. And we learn by sharing best practices from around the world. So we have a very good safety record, and actually when we put all of that into place, actually the cement industry is actually quite a safe industry to work in. So hopefully that will answer your question. But yeah, to protect yourselves if you're using cement when you're at home, if you ever do, just make sure you've got gloves on and wash your hands after you use the product. That's the most important thing. So the next question on the list. So the production of cement produces a lot of carbon dioxide, and yes it does. What steps are the industry taking to reduce the CO2 production? So a little bit earlier in the video we hinted towards this beautiful stuff, which is SRF. This is our alternative fuels. This is really important. But we also have alternative raw materials as well that we'll add into the process, which otherwise may have ended up in landfill. And the reason we use some of these different products is because it enhances the cement properties for a start, but it also means we're diverting it from a less desirable output. We also use biomass fuels wherever possible. So not necessarily here at this cement plant, but other factories will use sewerage pellets, for example, which go through testing, so you don't get that awful smell that you may associate with it. It's nothing like that. MBM is another product that historically is being used, wood chip obviously. Something you may not be aware of, but at the cement plants in Tarmac, we actually use renewable energy sources. So our electricity comes from a supplier that uses hydro and wind turbines. So that's a really positive thing that we perhaps don't shout out about enough. We also install the very, very best equipment available to us. So we have variable speed drives, which helps with the energy consumption on the factory, and that reduces the CO2 footprint as well. Simple things like, posters saying turn the lights off, that's really important for us. And we do things like trying to minimise false air, and where we can waste energy is essentially where we can see CO2 being driven up. And the other thing as well, that when we produce any waste at this site, we ensure that material doesn't end up in a landfill. And again, that helps with the CO2 footprint of the factory. So there's lots and lots of things that we do. We've got lots of new exciting projects, and if you're interested in any of those, have a look on LinkedIn and you'll find lots of information if you look at Cem Bureau. So what subjects did you study at school? School was a long time ago now. But when I was at GCSE sort of age, so back in 2002, I studied English, which is a double award. We did the 3 sciences, so chemistry, biology and physics. I did mathematics, IT, and then for my fun subjects I did art, because I loved art. And then I did a GMVQ in manufacturing engineering. Then at that point I went on to college and I did an ND in manufacturing engineering, and then that progressed on to the HNC in mechanical engineering. I did something that was called a PEO in engineering as well, and that was primarily around about fabrication. So we were on the lathe equipment, mills, turning metal, building things. That was really exciting. Welding as well, that was good fun. Then I did my MVQ in health and safety, and alongside all of those as well, we did things called key skills. And then my professional development, my professional qualifications, I am certified to both NEBOSH for safety management and also NEBOSH environmental management. And this was a really proud moment for me because I finally got the technical qualification, the letters after my name, because I didn't actually go to university. But I do have letters after my name because of the professional qualifications I've done. So that was really, really good. I love this next question, and this may surprise people. So what did you want to be when you were little? Now, I do a lot of STEM talks and I do get quite passionate about enticing women into engineering, and this is a question I get asked quite a lot. So people are shocked to hear when I say when I was a little girl I actually just wanted to be a farmer. I had no ambition to be an engineer of any shape whatsoever. I wanted to look after my horses, I wanted to play with my sheep. When I got to sort of like my mid-teens, I got quite interested in Land Rovers, and I found that working with my dad and my brothers on our little old Land Rover, which you can see in the presentation, that gave me the bug of nuts and bolts in engineering. And then from my farming background and with playing with Land Rovers all day long, naturally the environmental side kind of started falling out of it. So how do we protect the natural environment? you know, making sure that animals are looked after, you know, flora, fauna, all those sorts of things. So that's kind of how I've accidentally fallen into the cement industry, because it kind of ticks all those boxes for me. So a slightly more serious question, and I'm pleased this has been asked. So why is sustainability an important part of your work? So sustainability can be broken down into lots of different subsections, but we're purely going to look in my answer about the environmental element of the sustainability strategy. And the first thing is we want to tackle climate change. And we take part in a whole life approach to energy and greenhouse gas management. And this covers everything from the materials that we use in our operations to the transport of the product. So as I said before, we're looking at different alternative fuels, we're making sure we're sending more of our product out by rail. Those are the sorts of things that we should be looking at to reduce the CO2. Environmental stewardship is something very dear to me. So this is looking after the natural environment. It's making sure we're minimising the impact we have to the environment. So emissions to air and to water and to land, we need to, you know, keep those well under control. And to do that, one of my key roles is looking after the environmental management system. We are certified to ISO 14001, ISO 50001, and quite a few other systems as well, and also about sustainable resourcing. So that's BES 6001. So I run all of the audits for all of those systems across the whole of the business. And then finally, another key point to the sustainability strategy for us is resource efficiency. So we believe that there's a finite natural resource that should be used efficiently and effectively, and that actively promote the transition to the circular economy. So by that, we're trying to design out issues at the very early stages of concept, and then managing that full process through to end of life and disposal ultimately. It's the cradle to grave. So we need to understand the full aspect of that whilst we're planning any work here at the cement plant. Oh, good question. So what is a typical day like for you? I don't think I have a typical day. Now, this is why I love my role. There are some key things I must do during the day. So in the morning, I must check all of the production data and I must look at all of the emission data. We then have a morning meeting about all of those data sets. Then anything goes. So it could be auditing, it could be out doing inspections, I could be supporting the team, doing training, I could be out talking to the public, I could be doing things like this where I'm engaging with young people, trying to help them understand the world of, you know, environment and sustainability. All sorts of things. I mean, stack testing, I do a lot of the extractive testing on the site, water monitoring. I also look after another factory as well, so I get to travel quite a lot as well, so that's all quite exciting. There's lots of emails, I'm trying to look at the pictures, lots of paperwork, unfortunately. They're not the best bit, but we have to do it regardless. So there's lots of admin to do. But then the rewards, you know, they reap for themselves, you know, especially when we get really good audits and get lots of positive feedback in the media. What's the favourite part of your job? Do you know what? I've been with this business now for 17 years, believe it or not. I literally left school and joined straight into the cement industry. And I love the company. They've really looked after me, and that's kind of what I really like about the job. It's a family, feels like a family business, even though we're a global national business. I've got some wonderful team friends, and we meet up, you know, outside of work and everything as well. So we've got some really good friendship networks going, which is great. As I kind of said on the previous question, I don't have a single day that's the same. Anything could happen. You have to be able to deal with the unexpected. But if you see that as a bit of a fun challenge, then, you know, life is always going to be fun. And there's lots of exciting opportunities to get stuck in with as well. I know that the work I do and with my team, we have a positive impact on the environment. And when we start seeing the reports coming through showing, you know, the improvements we've made, that's really satisfying as well. And one of the other pluses is I get to visit other countries to see how they're adapting and also how they're implementing, you know, all the sort of European guidelines as well, so we can share in best practices and stuff. So that's really good too. So just to finish off, I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. I'm proud to be part of the STEM Ambassador Network, and if there's anything I can do to help with volunteering in your local area, I cover Buxton and Staffordshire Moorlands, so you're more than welcome to get into contact. And if you want me to come into schools and do any school talks, or when the situation with COVID finally eases up and we have suitable controls in place, we can start looking at doing school visits probably in 2021. Hopefully this has brought some of the STEM subjects to life, and feel free to email any further questions. So I've been Josie Sherreston for Tarmac Cement and Lime, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Bye.